You ever get the feeling that AI is like everywhere you turn these days? I mean, it's not just some tech buzzword anymore, right? It's kind of crept into every corner of business.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely not sci-fi anymore.
I bet a lot of you listening are even using it in ways you might not even realize.
Probably.
Like maybe your accounting software is using AI to look for anything weird in your financial reports,
Yeah.
or using chatbots for like 247 customer service,
Makes sense.
or even using AI to figure out who your customers are and what they want.
Uh-huh.
It's already making a difference whether we're fully aware of it or not. So today we're going deep on something super important for small and medium enterprises, or SMEs, who are dealing with AI in their businesses, and that's the whole idea of good governance. We'll be looking at some key resources, like the ASEAN Guide on AI Governance and Ethics, and the Malaysian National Guidelines on AI Governance and Ethics.
Those are both great places to start.
Think of it this way. Let's say you're using AI for customer service.
Okay, yeah.
It's almost like you've hired a whole new team,
Yeah.
right?
Definitely.
But you wouldn't just throw them in without any training or guidelines, would you? No sense of your company's values.
Right, of course not.
Well, neglecting AI governance is kind of like doing that with your AI. It's like letting these powerful tools run wild without any clear direction, and that could lead to some pretty messy and maybe even damaging consequences for your business.
No one wants that.
So what we want to do today is cut through all the hype and give you the core principles and frameworks you need to implement AI responsibly.
Like a cheat sheet almost.
Exactly. We're going to keep it practical and avoid getting lost in the technical weeds. This is about giving you the knowledge you need as an SME owner to use AI the right way and protect your business.
Sounds good.
So let's start with the basics. What exactly are we talking about when we say AI? It's like a buzzword that gets thrown around a lot.
Well, yeah, it can feel like that sometimes.
What's the working definition we should all be on the same page with?
So the Malaysian National Guidelines define AI as this suite of technologies that lets machines basically act intelligent.
Okay.
But the really important part for businesses, especially SMEs, is that it can seriously boost human ingenuity and intellectual capabilities.
So it's not about replacing us, it's about, like, working together.
Exactly. It's about making your team and your processes even better. And get this, the global AI market is expected to reach like $267 billion by 2027. And it has the potential to add a whopping $950 billion to ASEAN's GDP by 2030.
Wow, those are some huge numbers. So in this massive and kind of crazy fast-moving world of AI, what does governance actually mean for an SME owner? What do they need to be thinking about?
So at its heart, AI governance is about having the right frameworks in place. You know, the policies, procedures, ethical stuff that guides how you build and use AI in your company. It's about making sure that when you use these powerful tools, you're doing it in a way that aligns with your values, respects your customers, and like minimizes any potential downsides.
Kind of like setting the ground rules from the get-go.
Exactly. It's like having an operational manual for all things AI in your business.
That makes sense. I mean, we all see the potential benefits, right? Like streamlining things, boosting productivity, maybe even finding new markets like that Deloitte report suggested.
Yeah, there's a ton of potential upside.
But we also know there's a flip side. If we're not careful, things could go south pretty quickly.
Right. And that's where having a solid set of guiding principles comes in. The Malaysian National Guidelines actually outline 7 core principles of AI governance and ethics.
Okay, let's hear them. What are the key things SME owners need to know when using AI?
So first up is human well-being. Basically, this means any AI you use should benefit people. Simple as that.
Makes sense. What else?
Second is transparency. You should have a pretty clear understanding of how your AI systems work and how they make decisions.
So not just treating it like a black box.
Yeah, you don't want it to be a total mystery. This isn't always easy from a technical standpoint, but you want to aim for explainability whenever you can.
Makes sense. Especially if you're using AI for something like customer-facing chatbots, right? You'd want to understand how they're coming up with their responses.
Exactly, especially if a customer has like a really complicated issue.
Okay, so human well-being, transparency, what's next?
The third one is accountability. This is all about setting clear lines of responsibility for, who's in charge of developing and using AI, especially when things go wrong.
Yeah, because let's face it, things do go wrong sometimes.
Oh yeah, it's inevitable. Then there's the principle of pursuing human benefit and happiness, which is really just a continuation of the first one, making sure AI is used for good.
Using it for the right reasons, I like it.
And then we have non-discrimination. This one is super important for any business that wants to be fair.
Absolutely.
You need to be really careful that your AI systems aren't creating biased or unfair outcomes, whether for different groups of customers or even within your own team.
That's a big one, especially when you're using AI to analyze customer data, like for setting prices or targeting marketing campaigns. You could accidentally build some pretty discriminatory practices without even realizing it.
Yeah, exactly. You've got to be very mindful of that.
Okay, so we've got 5 principles so far. What are the last 2?
The sixth is sustainability. This encourages being aware of the environmental impact of using AI.
Right, so AI isn't just happening in a vacuum.
Right. Although this is probably more relevant for larger companies with bigger AI systems.
Okay, that makes sense.
And finally, data ethics and privacy. This is huge because AI relies so heavily on data. You have to make sure you're handling that data ethically, securely, and following all the privacy rules.
That's a big one.
It's the only way to build trust with your customers and avoid legal problems.
Okay, these all sound like good, solid business practices in general.
Yeah, pretty much.
But like you said, when we bring AI into the mix, things get a lot more complicated. How do these principles actually play out day to day in an SME that's using AI for things like accounting or customer service? Can you give us some specific examples?
Sure. Let's go back to those examples you mentioned earlier.
Okay.
If you're using AI in your accounting software to find anomalies, transparency could mean understanding how the AI decides something is an anomaly.
So what's it actually looking for?
Right. Is it just something statistically weird, or are there other things going on?
Gotcha.
And accountability would mean having a human accountant double check what the AI found before you make any decisions.
Makes sense.
And in customer service, if you're using a chatbot, non-discrimination means making sure that chatbot is helpful and responsive to everyone equally. It doesn't matter what their background is or what kind of question they have.
Everyone gets treated the same.
Exactly.
Okay, so I'm starting to see how these principles become real, tangible actions. Now, you mentioned the ASEAN Guide also has some practical advice on how to put this governance into practice.
It does. It really stresses the importance of setting up internal governance structures that fit the size of your SME and how much AI you're using.
So it's not one size fits all.
Right. It could be something as simple as like a small group that meets to talk about AI ethics.
Okay.
Or it could be more formal, like written policies and guidelines for how to use AI. The guide also talks about how important it is to clearly define who's responsible for what when it comes to your AI systems.
Right, so who's doing what?
Yeah, from building it to using it to monitoring it. Interestingly, the GSMA has this cool illustration of a 3-level governance model.
Yeah, tell me about that.
So you could have like responsible AI teams that work on individual projects. Then you have an ethics committee that handles the bigger, more complicated issues. And then at the top, you have the executive board overseeing everything, especially the high-risk AI applications. It's basically about building layers of oversight that grow as your AI use grows.
So you build out the framework as you go.
Yep.
It's just like how we do things in other important areas of our businesses.
Exactly. And this becomes even more critical when we start thinking about the risks. You know, what could happen if you ignore all this stuff and don't put any AI governance in place?
Yeah, that's the part where we need to understand what's at stake here. What are the bad things that can happen to SMEs who aren't paying attention to all this?
There are a few big risks that can really hit your bottom line and hurt your reputation. One is, well, mistakes and just plain wrong information. AI, especially the newer models, can sometimes give you wrong answers or make mistakes in its analysis.
That doesn't sound good.
Not at all. So, like, let's say you're relying on an AI report for your accounting. If there's a mistake in there that you don't catch, you could make bad financial decisions based on bad information.
Yikes.
Same thing if your AI is analyzing customer data. If it comes to the wrong conclusions, your marketing could be way off base.
So we could be wasting money and time basically going down the wrong path.
Pretty much. And then there's reputational damage. That's a huge one.
Oh, yeah, I can see how that would be a nightmare.
If your AI systems come off as unfair or biased, like let's say your chatbot constantly has trouble understanding questions from a certain group of people.
Right.
Or if you have a data breach because your AI systems aren't secure enough, that can completely trash your company's reputation.
That makes sense.
The ASEAN Guide also specifically warns about deepfakes and impersonation using AI. Like, imagine someone using a deepfake to create a fake interaction with your company that makes you look bad. That would totally destroy customer trust.
It's scary how real that stuff is getting. What about the legal side of things? Are there legal risks too?
Oh yeah, for sure. Legal and financial liability is a big one. If your AI systems are doing things like infringing on intellectual property rights,
Yeah.
violating data privacy laws like GDPR, or discriminating against certain groups,
Oh,
you could end up in some serious legal hot water and have to pay huge fines.
not worth it.
Definitely not. The laws around AI are still being figured out, but it's already clear that you've got to handle data responsibly and operate fairly or you'll get in trouble.
So it's not just about doing the right thing. It's about protecting yourself legally and financially.
Absolutely. And then, of course, there's the impact on your customers. You can easily lose their trust if you're not careful.
I can see how that would happen.
If your customers feel like your AI is being shady, unfair, or not respecting their privacy, they're going to start to question your whole business.
Makes sense.
The Asian Guide talks about this thing called anthropomorphism. It's where customers start thinking the AI understands them and has feelings like a person.
Right.
And then when the AI doesn't live up to those expectations, they get frustrated.
Yeah, it's like they feel personally let down.
Right. It can be really tough to win back that trust once it's gone.
All right, so we've talked about the risks in general.
Uh-huh.
Can we get into some specifics?
Sure.
How might these issues actually play out in different industries? Let's say e-commerce, for example.
Okay, so let's say you're an e-commerce company using AI to recommend products to your customers.
Yeah, a lot of companies are doing that.
If the data you use to train that AI is biased towards a certain type of customer, the AI might constantly miss recommending products that other customers would love.
Like, it's only showing a narrow slice of what you offer.
Exactly. And that's not just bad for business. It can also make you look biased, which could hurt your reputation.
Yeah, you'd alienate a lot of potential customers that way.
Right. And if you're not careful about how the AI collects and stores customer data, you could have a data breach, which could be a legal and financial nightmare.
So, lots of potential downsides for e-commerce companies. What about something like a service-based business? One that uses AI for, say, initial customer support inquiries.
Well, if an SME is using an AI-powered chatbot and they haven't really thought about the governance aspect,
Right.
that chatbot might give out wrong information or not be able to handle those tricky, nuanced questions that come up.
So it could be more trouble than it's worth.
And that leads to frustrated customers who feel like no one's listening to them.
Mhm.
And if it's not clear to the customer that they're talking to a bot, that can also erode trust.
People want to know who they're dealing with.
For sure. And then if the chatbot is making decisions about service levels or access based on biased data, that could look like unfair treatment and damage their reputation.
So no matter what kind of business you are, there are real consequences to not taking this stuff seriously.
Yeah, it's something every business needs to be thinking about.
So what can our listeners actually do? What are some practical tools and steps they can start taking today to get a handle on all of this in their own companies?
The Asian Guide talks a lot about the importance of doing risk impact assessments specifically for your AI applications.
Okay, so basically looking at where you're using AI and asking what could go wrong here.
Yep. And how much human oversight do we need?
That's a good way to put it.
And this is where the whole concept of human in the loop comes in.
Human in the loop.
Yeah. It means having a human review and approve decisions made by the AI. Then there's human over the loop, where the AI is mostly doing its own thing, but humans can step in if needed.
And I guess the third option would be human out of the loop.
Right, where the AI is making decisions completely on its own. The amount of risk involved will determine how much human involvement you need. Like, AI flagging something weird in your accounts definitely needs a human in the loop.
Okay.
But AI sending out appointment reminders, probably not so much. Although even then, you still want someone keeping an eye on things.
That makes sense.
Another super important thing is to thoroughly test your AI systems and constantly monitor them.
So don't just set it and forget it.
No way. You got to make sure it's doing what it's supposed to and watch out for any weird behavior or unexpected biases that might pop up over time.
That's a lot of work.
It can be,
Right.
but it's important. The Asian Guide and initiatives like YouCare.ai really emphasize this point.
Thorough testing and ongoing monitoring.
Exactly. You want that reliability. And there are also new AI governance tools coming out all the time, like AI Verify, which can help you see if your AI models are explainable and fair.
So always new things to learn and new tools to try.
For sure. And don't forget about the data you're feeding into your AI. The quality of that data is everything.
Garbage in, garbage out, right?
Exactly. You also need to actively work on finding and fixing any biases that might be hidden in your data. Remember, Biased data equals biased AI.
It all comes back to the data.
It does. And
Right.
finally, you absolutely need clear internal policies about how AI is used in your company.
So everyone's on the same page.
Right. You need to train your employees on how to work with AI systems and the data they produce, and set up ways for your employees and your customers to give feedback and report any issues they see.
So it's about building a whole culture of responsible AI use.
Pretty much. The Asian Guide and real-world examples like what the Ministry of Education in Singapore is doing really highlight how important this is.
Wow, this has been a really in-depth look at AI governance. It's definitely not just some abstract concept.
It's definitely real-world stuff.
It's something that every SME using AI needs to pay attention to.
Absolutely. And this whole field is constantly changing. New challenges are popping up, best practices are evolving, new tools are coming out. That's why it's so important to stay informed.
That's why we're doing this deep dive.
Right. Staying up to date on the latest thinking is essential if you want to be successful and grow your business responsibly.
And speaking of staying informed, what about these forums dedicated to AI governance and ethics? What do they offer that, say, this deep dive doesn't? What would you say to our listeners who are now maybe thinking, okay, I need to learn more about this. Where do I go from here?
Attending a forum is a chance to really go deep on these topics.
More than we can do here.
Yeah. You'll hear from leading experts and people who are actually working with this stuff every day. And you get to connect with other business owners who are facing the same challenges and trying to figure out the same things you are.
So it's like a community of practice.
Yeah, it's a chance to move beyond the basics and get really practical advice on implementation, learn about new tools and frameworks, and just share experiences. It's an investment in the future of your business.
Okay, that makes sense. So, as we wrap up our deep dive today, what's the one big takeaway you want our listeners to remember about AI governance and ethics?
Here's the bottom line. If you're an SME and you're using AI in any part of your business, whether it's accounting, customer service, analyzing data, you can't ignore AI governance and ethics anymore.
It's not optional.
Right. It's the foundation for innovating responsibly, building trust with your customers, and protecting your business from serious risks.
So we're talking legal risks, financial risks, reputational risks, the whole 9 yards.
Exactly. And hopefully this deep dive has shed some light on how AI governance can affect your day-to-day operations.
Yeah, we really wanted to make it clear that this stuff is important.
And make sure you're aware of the potential pitfalls if you choose to ignore it. So here's something to think about as we sign off. AI is not going anywhere. It's only going to become more integrated into how we do business. So the question is, are you going to be proactive about setting up guidelines for responsible AI use in your SME? Are you going to make sure that innovation is driven by ethical principles and strong governance? Or are you going to just wing it and risk getting blindsided by the consequences of not taking this stuff seriously? I urge you to take some time to really think about what you're doing now and explore the value of actively embracing AI governance. It's not just about avoiding risks, it's about creating a better future for your business and for everyone.
Great advice. We'll see you all next time on The Deep Dive.
Thanks for listening, everyone.